Well, now that you're feeling better.
Yeah, so.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and call our meeting to order. I didn't mention that, right?
No, you call it towards,
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm very tired today, so
You
I'm
can
doing my
call
best.
roll call since.
We're gonna do roll call though, so let's start on the end.
Alexander McMillan here.
Let's just don't screw up the list here. I know I'm here. Karen is not, she's out today. Cassandra.
Here.
Conley. Debbie. Cheryl.
Here.
And Kristen.
Now, who's gonna take the notes, since Karen didn't discuss that last week?
I thought we had, Ron told Cheryl that she was taking it, but I don't remember. Does anybody have good handwriting or great looking
Who's
notes that
that?
would like to do?
Cheryl, if you wanna take them, I'll kinda scribe them down too.
Okay, we'll see if you can,
Do you wanna-
if somebody can read that. That's great.
While they're doing that, we're gonna, take a second, make sure we've got an approval for the agenda, which we will need a motion for that one.
I'll motion to approve the agenda tonight.
I'll second that.
Do I have to do that?
You do?
And who, okay, so I'm totally missed that deal.
It's okay.
I motion to approve.
Cassie.
Cassie.
Okay. And Alexander second.
Second.
Alright, if you guys had a minute to look through the minutes, from our last meeting, just take,
We'll approve the agenda first,
okay,
and then you'll approve the minutes.
okay, is that, we just did it first and a second, to approve the agenda,
But those are-
Yeah, and then call the vote.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
call the vote.
Oh, I'm
First and
sorry.
second, then call the vote.
apologize,
Yeah.
so we're gonna do this. Alright, so we'll, we have a vote to approve the agenda
Was that the agenda, was that the agenda that we approved?
For tonight, yeah.
for tonight.
Yeah, this agenda tonight.
Okay.
So clarify for me, so we had a
You have a motion to
motion
approve,
to approve it, we had a
And then a
second, and then
second.
we all need to vote.
and then you'll
Right.
need to vote, correct.
That's right,
Yeah.
just wanna make sure we're on the right page.
So a
Okay, so,
proper order would be, I have a motion and a second, all those in favor say
so,
aye. All opposed,
we have a motion to approve the agenda and a second, so all those who, are for approving the agenda, can just say aye. Any opposed?
motion carried.
Motion carried, those
Perfect.
approved, thank you. So it'll be a very similar process here for the minutes. Has anybody not had a chance to look this over? Everybody's had a chance? Okay, it'll be a similar circumstance, so we'll just need a motion to approve the minutes, a second, and then we'll call a vote for that as well. These right here, so just our stuff, for last meeting.
And the minutes, those reflect general discussion of the last meeting.
Yeah, so
proceedings
basically
of
just
the
kind
last
of
meeting.
a overview.
Not
of
in
the meeting.
detail, but just general.
So you chat GPT and say, give me a small thing that happened, this is what you do. Anybody have a motion to approve the agenda? Or, sorry, the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
That's Alexander. Is there a second? And Conley had a second. All right, so we've got a motion to approve the agenda and a second. So we'll go ahead and move a vote to approve the minutes. So for everybody who agrees to approve the minutes, we'll just say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? All right, so it looks like the motion is passed for approval of the minutes from our April 7th meeting. As well, thanks for everybody. All right, so our very first thing is old business, so that is our park board bylaws. You can see that Matt had put a copy out here to us. He's got some notes and stuff, the things that he's made for suggestions for changes, so I'm gonna let him go over that for us.
Yeah, so the park board bylaws, you were given those at the last meeting to look over and go through. And really now is just kind of the time to discuss those, if anybody has any questions about them or has any changes. The version in front of you is kind of a red line version, I guess you would call it. Some things myself and staff went through to make a couple corrections to what we had before, just to kind of start the discussion for tonight. So does anybody have any questions on the bylaws?
So on section 3, let's see. So you're gonna, overseeing or serving as a contact person is the mayor and no longer the director of public works, so Thomas would no longer be involved in that?
Right, it would come to me, it would go to me and the mayor, because he's.
Has that always been like that? Because I.
Well, it was in the past, and then he would have to come to these meetings. He would prefer not to come to these meetings, so I will be here, so we just kind of change that. I mean, when those guys come in and work out in the heat all day long, especially in the summer, you know, we try to limit what they do after hours, so.
Was there a concern around it being different?
Well, I just guess I didn't, previously, I don't think the mayor or the city administrator were
Right.
attending the meetings
Yeah.
and being part of it. I just didn't understand why
Yeah,
there needed to be a change.
yeah, I don't know why the mayor or city administrator didn't attend in the past, but I plan on being here for these meetings as much as I can.
Can we, if there's issues that require someone from facilities to, you know, if we have questions, can we go ahead and say, hold a decision until we get someone from facilities to?
Yeah, or if there's something on the agenda that you feel that Public Works should be here for, just let me know and I'll have
Right.
a representative from Public Works
Okay.
be here. Yeah, but for the purposes of this, I will be your primary contact, and then I can, you know, if Public Works needs to be here, or whoever, I'll be happy to have them come to the meeting, so.
Okay. Do they get paid for that?
Well, Public Works Director would not, but if one of his guys came in, they are hourly employees, so they would be paid for that. They would be compensated with
Okay.
overtime to come to the meeting.
Okay.
Can you clarify for me too on that, second page, the second paragraph, where we lined out the Kechi Public Works Park? So the parks and the physical and fiscal responsibility are of the city of Kechi. When we talk about the physical responsibility, are we talking about upkeep, maintenance, things like that, or are you talking about, like the physical property
The
itself?
property itself,
Okay.
yes, and that's why I clarified that, yeah. And the paragraph above there too, I did add the agenda will be published on the city of Kechi website, just to help with transparency and help those who wanna see it, get it, so they don't have to put their name on the list.
So what you're saying is that Public Works is no longer, it's not their responsibility, it's the whole city of Kechi?
Well, it is Public Works does the work over there, but it's the city's park. And the city directs the activities of the park. You know, we may use Public Works for some things over there, or we may hire a contractor to do things, so.
I guess I just don't understand the big change between, it's been under parks, public parks, or the public works, and now you're involved in it. I guess I just don't understand because they're the ones that would be physically involved in it.
Right, but the city and myself direct the departments and the activities of the department, so it's a lot easier coming through me, so we can direct that work that needs to be done. I mean, we
It
could
feels
have-
like a little bit to me like it's almost training them up and having to make the smaller
Yeah.
decisions that
We
we're
could have
gonna
pu-
be
we could
doing and
have
then
Public
assigning
Works.
people to it.
Yeah, we
So
could
it
have
allows
Public
them to be able
Works.
to govern that, a little bit more, and allows for them to not have to be into the small tinier details of all of that, but allows them to be just assigned what they need to get done in the park. They don't have to be part of the decision-making process of that, so much as the administrator, the mayor, and those would wanna be part of the decision-making process of that. Not to say that we wouldn't include them or ask them to come in and give their opinions on things like that, but it does feel like to me that it allows them to not have to be in here for all the small
I
sections.
guess I
of it.
just prefer direct contact
Yeah.
versus.
Yeah, it's just another step. I mean, if Public Works were to come in, they would still have to come back and, you know, get permission to do stuff prior to doing it in the park, so. It's really just the hierarchy of how the city operates.
So. guess we're not listing, okay, so the board will advise, because the way it was written before, the board will advise the Director of Public Works annually regarding budget priorities for the parks. And now it says, the board will advise the city administrator,
What, show me where you're looking.
right here on the,
Page three.
Page three. Page three?
Mhm.
Very
Yeah.
top one.
Yeah, now it says the board will advise the city administrator annually regarding budget priorities for the parks.
Correct. And that is because the city administrator, no matter if it's me or who else, oversees the entire budget.
Mm-hmm.
It is our responsibility to do that. And then we work through the department heads to develop that budget.
Makes sense.
Okay.
So you can kind of see what might help you too, is if you go 3 paragraphs down from there, you can see too where it says the board may, and they redlined out, advise and added consult with, the Director of Public Works for his or her, designee regarding park rules, recommendations. Again, what you're going through is you're basically taking out that person who had to constantly come in from Public Works, and now the city administrator is gonna be in there instead. Everything that they would have had to kind of go through is now gonna go through the city administrator, so.
And from internal discussion, prior park boards tended to go directly to Public Works and maybe tell them what needed to be done. And then Public Works is like, well, we can't do anything unless we have approval to do it. So then it just reverses the whole process. So now we're going through the hierarchy or the process of how departments work in the city.
I guess what looks like to me is that we're doing a bunch of this, right? Instead of getting the whole group together, like having, this is the thing right here that I was talking about, right? Is that instead of getting, when we start talking about budget or whatever, we start talking about, park rule recommendations, when we start talking about, contracts related to the parks, all this stuff. That should be conversations that we, you and Thomas should all of us should be in the same room having together. It shouldn't be us without going through, because we're gonna be talking like this and then you're gonna say, well, or we're gonna say, well, we need to be talking with Thomas about, we need to talk to him to find out. Because there's gonna be information, I can just hear it right now.
Can you give me an example of what
Yeah,
you're,
I'm not
can you give me like a specific example of like, if we wanted to do this, we would have to have Thomas here so he could advise us on, what's a specific situation that you're thinking about?
Well, the ground covering at the park, what we can
Right.
and can't use
Mhm.
because of the pond would be one thing.
Yep. I'm thinking
I
about
think,
all that.
I think that's what I'm saying, so I think that when we get there, right, we're making those decisions, that's what we're saying, that we can have him come in.
Well, that's
and
not what
have-
this does.
It is what it says, but see, that's what you were saying earlier, is that right now, hold on. What the thing is right now is that every single meeting, the city administrator has to be here to have that conversation. He also specifically said, we can ask Thomas to come in, and we can all have a conversation with Thomas and the city administrator and us to ask him those questions, so we can all have that. It doesn't mean he can't come, we're just saying it's not his requirement anymore, that he has to be here at every single meeting now to do that. That's my understanding of it, is that.
Right. Very similar to how city council meetings
Well, then
work.
this
We
needs to,
don't.
needs to be worded in a better way. Because this is, there's way too many words here. In my view.
Show me a specific part on there so that I can kind of get a better idea.
Why don't we just say, okay, the board will advise the city administrator annually regarding budget priorities for the parks. Let's see, the board will offer periodic advice regarding future park projects, seeking blah, 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 approval from the director of public works. we prepare grant, look at that. Which was through the minutes, assistance, city resources in the preparation of grants, rules review. May advise consultant with the director.
Well, then just in the second paragraph, the board will offer periodic advice regarding future park projects, seeking the advice and approval from the director of public works.
Right, so that we would invite him in, just like we did the other gentleman
But it says
tonight.
we have to have advice and approval.
It doesn't say we have to though. It says we will offer
You can
periodic
seek
advice. Right, and we can seek it. It doesn't say we have to or required to. So that's kind of a difference of saying that we have the ability to ask him to come so that we can seek that advice from him. Not saying that we're required to have him here to approve, because we don't have to have approval from Public Works to get that done. Some of those things, we do have to have the approval of the city administrator and the city council to move forward with those things. Public Works serves at the pleasure of the city council. So they're going to have to get their direction from the city council regardless. So it does allow for us to ask him to come in. That's giving us a little bit of that clearance to say, yes, you do need to come in and talk to us so we can seek your advice and have your input when we're making those specific plans and purchases, and things like that.
But it doesn't need to be here when we're brainstorming and.
Well, this is not about,
Really,
right, he doesn't need to be here every singular meeting.
And
I mean, that's
it's the
not a
same with
good
city
resource.
council meetings,
use of this time.
department heads like public works director, the police chief, they're not required to be at all the meetings. Only when they have something to report, like at the end of the month, they give their monthly reports. But the first meeting of the month, if there's nothing on it, there's no sense in them coming to the meeting, you know, and just sitting there and wasting their time.
Is there specific wording that you would like to have in there that would help clarify something of that? Is there something?
I'd have to sit down and really look at this.
Is it something that we want to move a little further, that we've got these corrections that you've recommended, as well, to move these, to have a chance to review it, and then look at it again the next meeting? So that you can ask or
Yeah,
seek,
I
or
would
kind of do
like
some
to-
research on what some of the wording looks like, as well? Does that seem, because some of these changes, like, there's the
Yeah,
first.
so what
one.
we-
There's a lot of
So-
changes here.
Yeah,
Okay, but we need to remember, we can just put the recommendations here, and then it all has to go through legal.
right.
So it's
Mhm.
not, I mean, anything we discuss, all this has to go through legal too, so, you know, don't,
Right. I
don't
just
go out
don't
your
wanna
way
limit
trying to
this.
come up with the correct legal jargon, because I can
Right.
guarantee our city attorney will change it,
Right.
so, yeah.
I just absolutely do not wanna limit this to, so we get into a bind. And, we're not limiting ourselves to, not having input from the people that we need input from. Because this is supposed to be something that we all need to be part of, and we need to get, especially the people who are our SMEs, right? So we need to make sure that we have Thomas in here, we need to make sure that we have the people who are, they're redoing, if we need to have, whoever we need to have.
Absolutely, and I think that if you look at that one, second paragraph on that page we were just looking at, that's gonna encounter a lot of that. So I think if you can outline, if we can all outline, what our wants.
Yeah, and I think it's important that the park board is an advisory board, you're not a governing board making laws or setting
Right.
ordinances or anything like that, so more you're here to gather information from, whether it's public works or somebody needs to come in and give a presentation over park equipment or plants or whatever it may be, then we would schedule those people in ahead of time.
That's right.
Yeah,
But
but
we are
but to have people here at each meeting is.
We don't wanna require them to have to be here if they don't.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely, but we are also, in my mind, we're the protectorate of Kechi and the residents here. And we're the protectorate of our park, right? So we need to make sure that whatever happens to that park over there, that it's the best, for our community. So that's what I look at it as.
is your main concern that we just might not be able to get them into a meeting to discuss these changes? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I wanna make sure that everybody who needs to be here is here.
Okay, so the wording is just like, since they're not like expected to come in, and the wording is only that we may only offer advice, that you just wanna make sure that certain meetings, they're kind of here just so they can hear our concerns. Just, is that kind of what you're getting at?
I wanna make sure that, yeah, that everybody that needs to be here, that they get offered the opportunity to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely,
Just wanted to clarify, thank you.
yes.
Is there a certain amount of time we need to make sure we have these done by? My suggestion would be just to, again, everybody has a chance to kind of look through and do your own research about what that looks at, like for you. I would also encourage you to potentially, if there are other bylaws that are online for other local areas, for parks, that maybe you review those and kind of see what they are, as well. Give yourself some time to have some education on what other people's expectations are, to do that. But then what we'll do is for now, we probably just need a motion to, bring this back. So I'll review it for now, and then bring it back at the next agenda with our notes so that we can submit it to the appropriate, legal entities to have the wording done properly. And then it'll come back to us, for final approval, at least on our end approval, what we wanna sign.
Yeah,
And then
I
back, I think.
Maybe the best process is, if you have suggestions on these, get with Neva, make the corrections, funnel them all to her, and then
Okay.
her and I can put them together and type them up, bring back a draft. If everybody's cool with the draft, then we'll send it off to legal, have him review it, and then bring it back for final approval.
And that way, maybe by the next meeting, we'll have another draft to look at. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
You need a motion for that?
It's just a
Okay.
discussion item.
I'm still just making sure I'm right. Okay,
Alright,
perfect. So that's for old business there, which will just remain some old business for the next time. Alright, since the other gentleman's not here, I'm gonna go ahead and skip on, unless we don't really have park construction and planning stuff to discuss, because that was what we were gonna have the guest, come in and do. So, I added in the timeline and priorities, which is also gonna cover a couple of things, that people had some concerns about. But what I wanna kind of talk about for this part is, I know we're all really kind of thinking about, oh man, we need to get new, equipment in here, we do all these things. But I will tell you, I've already gotten messages from people about small things, in the park that need to be corrected. And so, I should put one right here, maybe you don't have to think globally, we can kind of think locally. So instead of being huge things, you can think of small stuff. So I'd like to look at a potential timeline for us, things that maybe we can accomplish in the next month, the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months into the year, effort for that. Mainly because there are some things like graffiti stuff that can get corrected rather quickly. The plant that's overgrowing right now. There was some concern about some signage and stuff that needed to happen. Just some minor repairs and things like that around the park that could happen, that we can make recommendations for or improvements upon. And so I think that's kind of my thought process for this section of the agenda. What I would like to do is just kind of open it up, to you all to kind of give me an idea. I'd like to make a list of things that we'd like to see done first, and then if we can come back and prioritize those within those timeline period to see what's possible, and maybe give us a really clear view of what we're really actively working on, so that the constituents and people in the city can kind of see that we are moving forward with things. We're not just waiting around to make big decisions all the
So
time.
what are some of the things that people have emailed you about?
The two main things that three main things, apologies. One was, again, the drainage issue with the rocks.
Yes, I have pictures of.
Yes, and I did as well. The drainage issue with the rocks, there's some, inappropriate graffiti. Obviously, most graffiti is gonna be inappropriate, but there's some graffiti underneath the bridge, that I guess has been there for a little while.
I guess I didn't know about that.
I said, I would kind of, you don't really know.
I'm just there.
And then
Do you know where that's at, Neva? I was up there today. And
yeah, she sent me a Facebook message.
under the bridge on the play structure?
I think, no, under the bridge, like the actual, you walk over
Oh,
the bridge,
the
so I think that was the
bridge.
thing, they were like, hey, you have to kinda get down to see it. Just some bad words, that's just a whole way of saying that. Just some possibly offensive language, painted underneath the park bridge. It's been there for a while, is what it sounds like.
So that really doesn't have to be a priority of the board, that's just
Right,
something
it's
we
just
as
something
staff
mentioned,
need
and you think about how we're gonna
Yeah.
filter those concerns. If people are gonna come to you on the street,
go there and take care of
in your
that.
messages, and text and tell you all these things, so how are we going to submit those, and keep track of those in a time? And it could be something we could just say, hey, great, I'll pass it right along to the, city manager or to Project Works or whatever,
And
to
then
be
you can
corrected
email the
quicker.
person back and say, it has been.
Right, yeah, so they feel like there's some accountability from us.
Oh, absolutely,
to
and
do
I
all
think
those
that they
things.
need to be aware
And you
that
can
we
always
heard
tell
of.
them to submit it on our website too,
Mhm.
where they submit
Yeah.
concerns or complaints on there, and those go to the respective department heads.
So there's a drainage issue at the bridge, the berm was another one that someone had mentioned it
Oh.
again. That there were some of the carpet or whatever was getting pulled and ripped up,
Yeah.
as well. So not just the rocks falling, so things like that would need to be glued back down, and then the overgrowth and some of the issues with the sidewalks, being hard to navigate, which I've noticed, 'cause I've been riding my bike on 'em with my kids.
What do you call that? Because there's the other berm.
Oh, so the almost amphitheater looking thing.
What do you call it?
Our steps?
Yeah.
The steel.
Yeah, I know, it's on the north end.
Well, there's the berm that's across the pond that used to have like the
Terrace?
flowers and
With the
stuff.
astroturf on it.
Terrace.
That's okay, I think everybody calls it something different,
Or the
so.
terrace.
And for me, it almost looks like an amphitheater, like you'd
What
sit
do you
in
call
it
this?
and,
That's the stairs situation?
yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Like a terrace.
I was
Yeah.
thinking
Do a
about the
puppet
bridge.
show there so bad.
right?
Yeah.
With terrace with the, astroturf.
Yes.
Yes.
Or whatever, it's not gonna be that astroturf.
It is.
Is it really?
Well, I guess
Old astroturf.
carpet.
I say it's not high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fake
Well,
grass, yeah.
Yeah.
What else have you all seen or heard as well?
So, and then there is the berm.
Yes,
Now,
the actual berm that was
I
made.
have a question about that, because that was brought up at the last meeting. So Jack mentioned that. Okay, so there is a,
The burn.
yeah.
Is that, can we call it one thing?
What is it called?
I think most people refer to it as the
It's-
zero scape.
Oh.
That's what I've heard it referred to.
Well, there's a
Kind of on
sign,
the-
There's a sign that says berm.
berm.
Oh, okay.
And
Whatever you wanna call it, as long as we're
it
talking.
says
It's all
to
the-
keep off the berm.
Yes.
There's a sign there, so I didn't think that we were supposed to do anything with it. It says keep off the berm, so I didn't think that the public was supposed to do anything.
I think it's more like don't traipse through it.
Yeah, it's just, it has plants and stuff.
Right.
But, I mean, it's all weeds right
It's supposed to
now.
be native type stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so, and there's no instructions, I'm a real instructions person, so there's no instructions on what to do.
Wasn't there one that kind of showed what plants were originally planted?
There's another sign.
Okay,
Okay, I wasn't
Also-
well sign that says
It
zero space walkway.
explains whatever it is,
Yeah.
is.
And I thought that there was like a diagram of, and this was planted here, and this was planted
Maybe,
here.
I don't think there's one now, cause
Well, it's probably inaccurate, it's probably so overgrown that it's no
It could
longer.
be involved in pond, you don't know.
but
You never know over there. So those are,
is there anything that says what the public can do?
no, not yet, but here's what I wanna do. I wanna talk about it more in depth, but what I wanna do first is to make a list of all the things that we need to look at. And
Yep.
then, once we get down that, we could say, planting season now, let's assign that the next month or so we can either get a volunteer day out there, have an idea of what we need to do for that. So, what else have you seen and or heard or been told by anybody about some things that they'd like addressed that maybe has more immediate need than just equipment stuff?
Well, I don't know, the security camera signs,
Mhm.
when I saw those, I thought, what's going on? So then, when we had the coffee with the cops,
Mhm.
I brought that up, the police officers were not aware of it, the mayor was not aware of it, Todd was not aware of it, so I didn't know who instigated that and why.
I saw him for the first time last week too, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, At least the city
prefer,
ordered those and put them out there, because there's been a lot of vandalism.
Is there
For
security
vandalism.
cameras out there?
Yeah, police department and the chief and I mean, I don't think his officers know, but they put their trail cams out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to kind of keep an eye on things and,
I guess there's, I just didn't think that
but
there was
there's
a big
been a lot
enough
of vandalism
problem.
in the park. so.
Well, it's a frequent issue in the parking lot especially. There's a lot of break-ins that happen.
Really?
There is. I mean, even if, I've probably, since I've lived here, I've seen at least 10 people talk about their car being broken into over there, stuff being stolen out of their vehicle,
in
their
that little
purses,
bitty
their bags.
Kentucky parking lot.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. Go back through the
Never.
Facebook page. Go back through the Facebook page. I'm telling you, I've seen at least in this year, at least 3. That happen. And then there's also the vandalism, right? So there's the issue that people constantly have of people going over and either vandalizing the equipment, vandalizing the fountain, throwing things into the pond, ripping apart things that shouldn't be ripped apart. I think the nice thing about the trail cam, I didn't know what it was gonna be. I didn't know whether that was like a fluff thing you guys were looking at or something else.
No.
Is that it's not a constantly running thing, right? It's not a constant, monitored camera, nobody's sitting there watching your kids do something. I'm more comfortable with the trail cam than I am
Well, I just think.
it would be nice that everybody had known that that was happening. I didn't know I would invest all the time.
I just think it kind of gives a negative impact on the park. Like, why are you watching my kids? Why are you watching my family? You know, I just think it gives a negative implication.
I think the tragic incident that happened last year, that was really scary.
We had a gentleman who took his life.
Shot himself in the head.
At the park.
Yeah, well, there was multiple families and kids there, and
Yeah.
But that's not something you wanna see on video either.
Well, no, I don't think that's what it is. There's so much.
what I was gonna say is that, it, maybe if there could have been signs there, like maybe someone wouldn't have felt so, comfortable doing that, I don't know, I mean, that's just,
Yeah, I don't know either, but.
I don't know, I think it's kind of, I think it gives some safety, for other people that, I mean, if you feel
I would
totally.
kind of agree with that.
Mhm.
I feel a little more safe, just even, yeah. Just, I mean, even floodlights
You never
and
know.
cameras, that
Yeah.
deters some people from committing crimes, I know that.
Yeah.
And even like if I'm selling something on Facebook Marketplace, if I have to leave my house, I prefer to go to Quick Trip, because I know they have security cameras.
Yeah.
So, I guess I could see both ways, but I don't mind. It doesn't feel less safe to me, it would feel more safe, I think, because it's kind of another level of accountability.
I don't know, I think it's just an infringement on privacy.
Well, it's a public, that's the thing, that's the thing. You're a public,
place.
you know. And it's something that I think that
Correct.
we, with our generation, having grown up with cameras being in our faces all the time, we're a lot more comfortable with it. And I think that's, because even my own parents, like, they don't have, cameras and stuff around their house, whereas mine, I have them in every, major space in my house, I have them outside my house, all that. And isn't just because I wanna catch somebody doing something wrong, but also it's a thing of like, if something does happen, I wanna be able to see what happened with my kid or whatever else. And there's not any illusion of privacy when it comes to being in a public space. That would mean just like you walking out the door, somebody could walk up and start filming us here and, and I think that most people right now know that that's a common situation to be in. And for me, that's the same thing. I feel safer just knowing that because again, we've even had people, and then you have sometimes you have overly concerned people, who are upset that people are walking at 10 o'clock at night, on the sidewalk and things like that. And so I think that that's another measure of us saying, you know what, I heard that you said that you were worried about the park. Here's what we did to help negate that. And here's a decision that was made to allow us to be able to add some accountability to that because what has frequently happened, and we can probably ask the police department too about how often that occurs, whether it's vandalism or theft or all the other stuff. And then what we might be able to see in the next few months if there is a deterrent.
Now, is that
and
something
that's
you
what-
had to get approval of, or is that just a decision that you made?
Yeah, it's just part of operation.
I think I would have preferred it be publicly talked about instead of just done, to get public input for something like that. I mean, we've talked about the flock system to the public, but not this. I don't know.
not certain that there's something, since we're in an advisory board, that allows us to be able to,
Oh, I
Yeah.
agree, but I'm just expressing
yeah, no,
my
absolutely.
opinion.
And I think that might be something that I would recommend, maybe go to the next city council meeting and actually approach that. Because I think that might be your best and clearest channel to be able to say, look, because it's the same thing, like, we don't want decisions made, no one wants decisions made without having your input, or someone having sought your input when it affects you. And that's one of the reasons why we're here, right? We want everybody to be able to hear us, and listen to us, and us be able to fight the people who are talking to us too.
Are we ever gonna have an opportunity, like if, like when we get closer to making decisions with equipment, inviting the public to come and quote unquote speak their mind or tell us what they're
Okay,
thinking?
against that?
watch online.
No, but it's not, so don't forget, this is not a closed meeting, right?
They're welcome.
They're welcome to come in anytime that they
Well, I
want.
just didn't
Yeah.
know, because, you know, we don't really have a time on the agenda for
Well,
public
we haven't really,
comment.
yeah, we haven't done anything yet, so I think that once we start having decisions and stuff, we absolutely will. But I'm gonna bring us back again to having specific things we can put on this list so that we can start making this time. So I want us to really focus in on what we're gonna go do so that we can start having those people come in and offer us some of that as well. And because we didn't offer those times, people to come in and even share those concerns with us if they haven't had a chance to do it, through an email or a text or something else when they've seen us.
Well, I think the drainage is definitely an issue. I know
Yeah.
behind my house, I've lived there for 25 years, every time it rains heavy, I have a pond in my backyard.
There was literally a shovel that was at the park the other day that we were using to shovel water out. Somebody put like a snow shovel in there.
We went one of the days right after it rained and just walking through the rocks, the water was pooling up around my feet.
Up and around,
Yeah.
so. Okay, what else?
Maybe if we could have somebody just every so often sweeping the gravel back in, because when my boys are riding their bikes, it's like, don't go too sharp, otherwise road rash.
So we
A
got
little
the
sketchy with
drainage
bikes.
issue with the rocks,
Oh,
with
is
the
it? I thought it
graffiti
was. I
under the
remember.
bridge, the, terrace with the turf,
Mhm.
and then the berm,
Mhm.
and then, is there another one, the water,
The flooding on the sidewalks.
for the,
Oh, we were doing, yeah, just the upkeep of the sidewalks and then the plants and things that are kind of overgrown over them right now. So we have that one big bush that is by the terrace piece or whatever we're
oh,
calling
the
it.
overgrown,
Yeah.
It's become a multi-plant. It's got several things.
It's very
growing.
huge. I almost took
oh,
my
it
own
does,
clippers
it's
one
got
day.
a lot of things over there,
It has
I didn't
trees
do
and
it.
bushes.
I held it back.
plant.
And you were saying, what to do with the runaway rocks.
Runaway rocks.
Yes.
Good name.
We have a rule in our house, we tell our kids that there are working rocks and there are fun rocks. And so working rocks have a job like landscape rocks, but we don't pick those up, they have a job, they need to stay there and do their job. Rocks in the wild can do
At
it.
the
And in the playground,
playground.
so they kind of go up over
Oh,
the
I
sidewalk.
know, okay, yeah.
I don't know how much of that, there's a way to mitigate that, other than removing some of it, but then you may have space. So that's something we have to
Right.
explore.
Public Works goes by when they can, like before events and stuff, and cleans them up, but
Chain
Well,
yes,
That might be a-
the only way to get rid
Plain
of, control that is to get rid of the rocks.
responsibility.
Well, and there's also the not only drainage issue with the sidewalks, there's a drainage issue at the park
Yes.
itself.
Right, yeah, I think that's kind of what we're saying, yeah, under the rocks and stuff, that water just lives in there.
Pools.
It doesn't have the ability to leave that space, and it stays for quite a while.
Always will find a way.
Oh, 100%. My pool of water is. What else have you seen or heard? The water fountain is another thing for me. We have the water fountain and the dog fountain that's non-working.
It does not work, correct.
Is it being worked on so it will work? Or
No,
is it?
I was up there with Thomas today, I think there's a really tough time getting parts, cause that's such an old fountain, so it really needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, would that be something that would come out of the park budget, or, okay.
That fountain was actually donated, I believe.
Because it has a thing
Has
right
a plaque on
there.
it, yeah. And it may be a good thing to do after something changes with the park, because if you look in there now, there's just rocks. And Public Works said that was the biggest thing they had, is kids take handful of rocks and fill it up, and they were constantly cleaning it out, so.
Now, what about the fountain in the pond? I've noticed last few days it has not been working.
They said they had ordered a cart for that.
They did, but the pond is too low right now, so it just sucks up dirty water from the bottom, so they can't run it. So we did some rain, and it fills up a little comes from it, it's not spring fed, it's not fed by a well or anything like that, it's just from runoff. So it's been so dry, it hasn't had a ton of runoff, but because it's a runoff pond, all that muddy runoff water goes in there, and over the years, it just builds up silt and silt and silt and silt, and the pond gets shallower and shallower and
Well, I
shallower.
knew a few
and
years ago
past
when
the
it was,
city had it dredged out.
yeah, it was a few years ago, when it was so low, they just went ahead and drained it, and they're the
Right.
bulldozer out there making it deeper.
Right, yeah.
Another thing is maybe temporary fixes to the play equipment that's there, if there's things that could be fixed to make it functional until we can replace it, like the walk across bridge is missing,
Some slats.
well, no, it's not missing slats, it's missing the, texturing has rubbed off. I literally watched a kid slide off of it the other day and go under the bar, just because there's nothing there, and if they're wearing shoes that also don't have good
Tread.
grip, yeah, they just slide right down. My daughter won't go on it because she's afraid of falling on it.
I know whatever that bouncy thing with the springs
Mm-hmm.
is, that is the weirdest contraption.
The kids love it.
My children have the hardest time understanding it,
Mm-hmm.
and so they usually just get their fingers pinched.
Yes, and that is, yeah.
That's usually what
It's
it
just a
is
big
having at the
hazard.
end.
Well, there used to be those little spring things that they could ride, like a dock or.
The ones you get flung. Those are my favorite.
But I guess, did they break?
Yeah, teenagers get on them and wrench them to one side and wrench them to the other, and
Oh.
bust them.
Yeah.
You know what else that happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, those type of things, it's almost like that little area right there could be, it's like we could work on that like quicker.
Yeah, that's kind of, that's what we wanna talk about, so there's some little things that we can do now.
And replaced,
Mhm.
those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But would we wanna replace that before we replace the ground?
I don't think that we're gonna replace like giant versions of things, but I think to be able to fix and repair things like you're saying, to help keep them as long as we can till we're ready to replace them.
Like things can be preserved and new things could be added as well.
Well, if we're gonna have to replace essentially the entire play structure and all the ground stuff, that's probably something that's gonna have to be done all at the same time.
Well, it's like having to remove the four-seater thing, right, because that started getting,
Well, that's what I was saying, is that if you look at like Valley Center, it's like they replaced and did part of it.
I'll have to go out there, cause the last time we were over there, there was not like that turf surface, which would've been last summer, so. I'm
Yeah,
curious
they've
that
got-
they
they've
pulled
got-
some of their rock out and not all of it.
Well, it's not, it's a floor, so it's a rubber floor,
Yeah, but their whole
like in
playground
Central
was,
County.
yeah, but their whole playground was rock previously, so.
Yeah.
That's why I'm curious, is that I'll have to go out there this.
It's had rubber, a rubber floor for probably 10 years.
the same park though?
Yeah, I'm from Valley Center.
which one you're talking about?
But I
The
know
one
they
behind
have
the
multiple
ACs?
parks in Valley.
McLaughlin?
Yeah, where's the surface at?
But it's not all that. There's, it's only part of it.
Yeah.
There's part of it is still rock.
Rock, that's why I guess I didn't
I
know
think
that
there were
any
a
part
couple
of
of
it
parks.
had the turf.
Mhm.
I'll just have to go back out there, maybe we just.
It's half the pebble rock and then half,
Mhm.
or maybe not exactly half, but.
It's mixed surfaces.
Mhm.
That seems interesting, cause then the rocks would just get all over the surface of the and the same issue we have with the sidewalks now, is that they just be everywhere.
Okay, so we have, from what I've got on my list, I'm trying to show, drainage, the stuff on the bridge, the berm on the east side of the pond, the terracey berm, excuse me, the runway rock, just kind of watching that, the water fountain, the dog fountain, what we do about that, pond upkeep, so that's the fountain, where did it go? I don't know if that said temperature Friday, that definitely said temporary fixes, good job. I have horrible handwriting, so I'm not doing that job. And then some things that we can work on, restore, like the bridge, so getting the texture back on the bridge, and things like that. Anything else you wanna add to that list? And it can be long-term stuff too, it doesn't have to be immediate, I know we know that equipment, Like replacing all the equipment in the flooring is a big thing. And to kind of give you an idea, I know we have these pictures that are here, that were sent to us, who was it?
Yeah, Karen provided those for us. I was gonna give those to you in kind of the staff reports, but, these are, she had went, and she can say more about it, but her and her husband went to California.
Yeah.
And, this was like Petco Park or something, there, kind of some neat ideas of what they did with a berm there.
Yeah.
They just thought it was really neat, I thought it was neat, so she could be here.
This
so I
is
just
neat,
wanted to-
but I'm afraid people will be going right into the pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on which way you put it, so don't forget, there's multiple sides, there's lots of things to do in that area that would be taking that rock out and just rebuilding the mounding. I kind of thought something like that too, because the Advanced Learning Library, when it was originally open, it had that green space in the kids area that was just hills. The kids used to run around on and do all kinds of crazy stuff in, and my kids loved it, they were just in there for hours for no reason, just running around in there and having adventures and stuff. And if you've seen it inside of Shields, and their little playground that they've got, it's a similar concept, right, where it's a piece is built in, but everything's built into that concept. So that's just an alternative view, but when I'm saying like we're looking at equipment, so thinking about how do we utilize, it's not just has to be standalone metal equipment or wood equipment or whatever, it could be stuff that we're integrating into the actual place that's already there. So we're talking about equipment, stuff like that, that's something to think about, but, one thing I wanna add into this, something to talk about too, is a volunteer day. I really think that I did some work with the neighborhood movement here, we talked a lot about using our people in our area for their talents. So asking them like, what talent do you have? How would you like to contribute to our community with your talent, whatever, whether it's what you do for work or something that you just really enjoy doing, and finding people who really enjoy doing things like park work and things like that. So that might just be us opening up a time to have conversations with people, and really be able to figure that out. So hey, maybe we need to be talking to the gentleman at Boomerang. What can you do to help us understand what we should be doing out here? Or, whether it's, with the glass blowing studio, like there's some things that you think, some metal work stuff that you can help us with, or some, welding or things like that. We have lots of community members who have great talents. I'm constantly calling my neighbor Deb, and I'm like, hey, can you please come help me fix this? Or great. Or you've got tools or something like that. So we're neighbors, right? And I wanna do that too. I don't want us always to think that we have to contract out and grab somebody and pay them to come do this, because at the heart of it really is that this is our park. And if we wanna have opinions about our park and what's gonna happen with it, we have to also have the split equity put into that park. And I'm all for that. I don't have a lot of financial equity I can put into things, but I have a lot of split equity. My kiddos, we go over, if you've ever seen us out there, you constantly hear us being like, okay, great, go pick up that trash, or go do this, or go push that over there, or let's, come over this way and take care of that table, let's push it back where it was. We want them to do that. We want to build that into them, and I want that our community to have the same buy-in, because if they don't, it's gonna fall into the same type of disarray we already are. And I want people to be like, hey, you know what, I'm not gonna let my kids do that, I'm not letting anybody else's parents or kids do that, I'm gonna make sure that I've got this, because I put this work into it, and I feel proud of this, and I'm excited about this. And I want that to start that as quickly as we can, just because again, like I want them to understand that we're involved, and that they can have this. So it might just be kind of almost a combination day, like come meet us, so you know who we are as a park board, because not everybody's gonna watch the lovely video, all the way through either, right?
True.
But they probably will.
I just wanna tell you guys that our highest hit ever on We the People of Kechi is the park board.
Yeah.
It's the #1 thing right now in Kechi. We had almost 1,600 hits on the last meeting.
Nice. So
Cool.
All right, who's gonna start the dance? That's next time. But I want us to really kind of look at that and see, because I don't want us to kind of dwindle down, right? We've kind of seen that with the fair and things like that. Like I want people back in this. So I think that us having a good plan that we can say, hey, we're gonna have this whole day, we're gonna talk about, here's our timeline of some really immediate stuff. Can you come talk to us and tell us about your concerns? So almost like the coffee and talk. That happens, and if you went to that, you see how people do come to that, because it is not as formal as a city council meeting, and a lot of people who don't feel as strongly about these things will just go do that, because it's easier to have those conversations. So I'd like to kind of look at that, and maybe if we can brainstorm a date, whether that might be, because when is the citywide garage sale?
The 14th of June.
June. Well, I thought about maybe doing it around that, where we have something happening in the park, not necessarily the volunteer day, but just to come talk to us, let us get to know you a little bit day, and then a volunteer day later on, maybe not in this winter and heat, But to get us on that, what are your,
I think that if people are participating in the garage sale, it's gonna be hard for them to break away to come meet us.
Sure.
So I don't know if that specific day.
what if we did that on the Sunday after the garage? Because most people would get their garage open on Saturday, so we say like a Sunday brunch style hour, like a 10 to 11:30 or 10 to 12 or something like that. I don't wanna interrupt anybody's time doing church.
I was gonna say,
meetings.
yeah,
the church.
It could be an afternoon
Church.
thing, and that's it, it's open to whatever we decide for that, but that would be a time if we're already kind of city focused. So even if we, it doesn't really matter when it happens, it's more just to make sure we have a concrete plan of it happening, so we can get it on people's calendars before they start making those summer plans to leave and do all that kind of stuff.
I think that's a great idea.
So, I think the volunteer day is kind of one of my first priorities, or at least the day to get to know the community, I'm not sure what we wanna call that yet. If anybody's really good at naming things, I'm not,
Is
all my
that
children
meet
have
the
to do
park
names.
board day?
Sure,
Meet the park board. I like that.
I like it.
Simple.
I have lots of outfits and blow up outfits I'd be happy wearing. Children love to dress up, let me just tell you, I buy them super cheap all the time, there's so many costumes in my house right now. I have one of those like fake blower guys, like you see at a car show, with a little person in it, I will stand out there, I will swing a sign. Is there a day that we think that might be the best serve for that? Or is there anything to stay away from that as far as dates or anything that you can think of?
Whatever you guys think.
The Sunday after Flag Day is Father's Day, or after the 14th is Father's Day, so I don't know that that's.
The 15th is Father's Day?
Yeah.
What if we did it, what if we did it the 8th of June? That would give us a month to advertise it,
Probably just leave it.
like a 1 to 3.
Yeah, in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
I would recommend it.
And we can do-
I wouldn't
because
even
the-
suggest evening. like,
The thing is that you can come for an hour and we could schedule like a time
Is it, I
frame.
wouldn't be quite as hot maybe, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I
Ice
think
cream
June is
social?
weird. Oh, there you go. Fancy. Or even, it's hard on a Sunday, although it is summer, the kids are really getting ready for school the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, but although, the only reason we were going to a Sunday is because of the garage sale, so we really could go that Saturday, the 7th.
Saturday the 7th.
Yeah.
Would that, is anybody available that day? And then if we did an afternoon that day, would that feel good, or a morning, I mean?
Maybe late morning maybe.
Let's see.
Because it's not dump day either. That's next week, that's,
What was it? It needs to be with something and garage sales
Mhm.
and construction.
Oh, you're talking about
June
this
7th, it's a
June
Saturday.
7th?
Mhm.
When is moving in the park?
Tomorrow, Friday, this Friday?
Is it the first Friday?
It's usually a Friday though, too.
Would that be a time that we could,
Maybe just jump along with it?
Oh, we'll be there before.
Yeah, we could ask.
just kind of, you know, while you're coming to movie night, then you could,
Then we don't have to buy snacks.
Maybe you could get with the police chief and maybe set up like a booth there or something.
the table and,
Yeah.
you know.
Meet the park
What
board.
day is that?
I
well,
don't know, I'll have to ask him, cause I see the one he's got scheduled, does he have a schedule other
I
ones he has?
don't know.
Okay,
Is
I'm
there
happy
no-
to, I can reach out to him
Yeah.
and ask, and then I can send, yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah,
I couldn't do the 6th.
I don't know. And that may not work out, but
Yeah.
it's just,
That's good.
Well, I say we can look and see what his next one is,
Cause you
and
know,
then.
you know a lot of people go to that.
Yeah.
So let's try, let's see about that.
I'll find out when the next one is, or if he has an idea for the one for June. And then I can send out, just an email to everybody
Mhm.
and let you know what it says. Okay. So, for this list of stuff that needs to get done, when it's things that need to be repaired and things like that,
Yeah.
just,
Just let us know
Okay.
up here at City Hall, and we'll get it taken care of, yeah.
perfect.
So like the graffiti needs to be directed.
Yeah, if it's
Well,
graffiti,
yes.
just call City Hall or put a request in on the website, say, hey, there's graffiti at the park, tell us where it is.
of all the rocks that were under the bridge, have those been put back where they belong?
I was
There
at their
used to be
Thomas today and we
signs
were
out that-
removing rocks from,
Yeah, you know, and
The
kids are
berm
out
and
there
everything.
with their parents, you know, and they're throwing, and sometimes I see their parents throwing rocks.
Not pebbles, we're talking rocks.
I was gonna say, are we anti-rock skipping?
No, not little rocks, we're talking like small
Yeah.
boulders, so they're small boulders,
I want
right?
good rock skipping.
Yeah, rock
Yeah.
skipping.
Rock skipping is a grade 10,
There is no way you
although
can
right
skip
now it's
those
gonna be more
rocks.
like
My
rock
kids-
pushing.
My kids are pro rock skippers.
No, we're not,
You can't skip
Not,
rocks.
they don't do the big ones, no. The little.
that's what we have in
Yeah.
mind.
You can't skip that
Oh,
rock.
well, 16.
It's like, this is the first child, second child.
So replacing all of that to keep the erosion down, is that part of our park budget?
it could be,
Cause I know on the one side, I think it's getting to the point
yeah,
where it
it's
needs to be.
it's gonna have to, well, and that was my next thing, is talk about people throwing rocks. So if you look at the park over there, and you look at the west side of the pond,
Mhm.
there's a lot less rocks than the east side of the
Mhm.
pond. Well, all those rocks are in the pond. So kids, people go down there and grab those big rocks and see how big a splash they can make, so they throw them in the pond.
And I've requested they not do that, I'm like, please don't do that, those rocks are there for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, I have no problem correcting anybody.
Yeah,
Oh,
oh, I've
yeah.
done it, for a kid,
I am not shy, I'm not shy.
especially the parents.
You did it, good job. It was me.
I wonder if those rocks would make it more difficult to get the sleet out.
Oh, yeah.
To get what?
The sleet,
The-
remove the sleet,
the
lower
silt.
the,
Oh, the silt?
Silt.
yeah, silt.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, if they're
Yeah.
dredging,
That's
yeah.
kind of fun.
So most of this, I think, is things, are
So,
things.
yeah, anything that's maintenance or
That's
damage
maintenance,
or
yeah.
anything like that, just let us know here, or guide people, say, call City Hall, let them know, you know, and Public Works will go and take care of anything like that. The sidewalks that are up here right now, we just went out again and looked at them today and kind of assessed them. Public Works will start getting those replaced as they can. There's only one spot that's a trip hazard, the other ones are just cracked, so they're not a trip hazard or anything, but there is one up by the street that's a trip hazard that they'll get that taken care of.
Right, the
fairly
entering
soon.
the park right there on
Right,
the Prairie Road,
Right,
yes.
yeah. And some of that is done because of all this utility work that we've had in town when those companies are boring underneath it. Disturbs that swale and shit stuff, so, you know, there's just things that come up all the time, so. Drainage is another issue, I mean, that's something that is more of a large project, cause it's gonna take mass grading of that area to get everything to drain correctly, because
I
there's a
think
lot of
What it
negative
is in
grade away from
the equipment
pond.
area is that there's nowhere for it to go.
Well, and that
So it'd
will,
be something underneath.
yeah,
is the hard
and
part.
And when it gets to the point of replacing that surface, when they put those new surfaces in, they put drain underneath there, so it evacuates all that water, so that will fix the problem when those upgrades are made, so. I do know one of the biggest priorities for the council is, getting that playground equipment and surface fixed, so, you know, I think it would be important to develop a timeline of when we can do that and maybe start that process as a board, cause that's just a huge thing for the community, and
But we don't have
it's
to.
really a, you know, a highlight of Kechi, people come here for the park.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
and it's
Yeah.
busy, and it's not
is,
just
it's a busy
locals,
park,
it's people
right.
coming to
Mhm,
Kechi for it.
right.
So then, and it is a priority, and it is a priority for the city council,
Mhm.
but budget-wise,
Well, don't forget, we can go back and tell the city council, this is correct,
Correct.
when we do our proposal, say, we need this much more money to complete.
Right, and we're going into
Uh,
budget season,
right.
so we can, you know, if there's money we can allocate for that,
Mhm.
and starting on something and developing it and getting estimates and costs together and, you know, a concept of what you wanna do, we can apply for grants for that too. You know, it helps offset some of those costs, but we can't apply for grants until
So
we
we have it.
know what we're gonna do and basically have a turnkey project ready to go, sitting on the shelf that, you know, we could submit for grant funding and, cause that's what they look at, is having those project ready.
So should we start looking at, like, say, the plan, like maybe by next week, that we should start looking at the plan that, you know, that we have out there on the site,
Are you talking about the master park plan?
the master park plan, we should probably all go out there, take a look at that. Look at kind of what was designed, you know, I know there's different, versions out there, kind of like different, you know, designs type of things, but go ahead and start with it.
Yeah, I don't know that that's, I think the quicker we get on that, the faster we're gonna get the process of doing it, because that's gonna help us, like he's saying, like get,
Yeah, go ahead
even
and
if
do
we're
it.
doing, even if we're doing local donations and things like that, we need to be on that now. I do have the conversation with Travis that needs to happen. He and I are like two ships passing the night right now. So the gentleman that, the nice, one that we got, the Nebraska, one,
Crouch
He-
Athletics.
yes.
Yes.
He and I have been trying to connect at a time to talk, so he can kind of talk me through some of the other possibilities and updating some of that. Doesn't mean we have to go with him, but that would give us a good idea to look at, say, we do like this, we don't like this. I'm very good at telling you what I don't like, I'm really bad at being like, yes, this. So for me, that's really, really helpful to be able to kind of see that. So I think that, us being able to, when you're saying go out there, are you thinking like us walk around and be like, we like this space like this, we don't like this, is that what we're thinking, or?
Well, yeah, we could do that, but really, you know, yeah, take a look at the plan, go out there, take a look and see, you know, eye it, see what we think, you know, as far as what's on the plan, what's out there, you know, look at the space, what we think is, you know,
What's doable?
what's doable.
Are we keeping the same, footprint, the same size of park that
Well,
we currently have?
We don't have to.
no, you don't.
But I didn't know
Yes, so
if the proposals that had been made already, if they were just the same
The
footprint.
ones that we looked at last month were within the same footprint that we currently have.
Another thing is that we've got a couple of dead trees in the park that need to be cut down.
Yeah, city's gonna take care of those.
Can can we ask everyone on social media, put out just a quick, informational post about that link to remind people that it's there, what good uses for it might be?
Which one?
The link for them to go on and talk about the maintenance needs,
Yep.
that would be really helpful, and then we can share that as well. Not sure is that been.
Usually then.
I did, well, we were talking about
Yeah.
overhauling the park thing, the people from Nebraska, but my kids and I actually had the opportunity to go out to the new Castle Park in Augusta,
Oh, cool.
since last month. It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And the group that did that is called Play by Design. They're from their northeast. But they go all over the country and they actually have help with like the fundraising and help with getting the community involved and doing the projects and stuff too. And they have a whole project, like the whole, they help with all of it.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that was if we could reach.
Well, I can
maybe
reach out
them.
to them, since my guy didn't come tonight, we'll
Yeah.
try a couple of other ones. So do you think one person a night, a meeting, or do you think we could do?
Well, I think that our thought process of having them for the meeting, the outside people, was to get conversations about what was, for them was good and bad. I think
Yes.
when we're talking about the design process, what we might want is to talk, and I might see what the process for that needs to be, for us requesting those things, type of things. But I think the sooner we can get to them, have them start sending us stuff, doesn't necessarily, because we're gonna do it like once every time, just after people, we're looking at 3 months out before we make any kind of decision.
Yeah.
So what might be is like, what I might recommend, at least for this, is for us all to go out and kind of we had talked about before, is have an idea, I hate to use the word vision board, but put some stuff together of what you really like about local parks, what are the things you're seeing that your kids enjoy doing, or you're seeing other kiddos enjoy doing, or teenagers, or people that are using the park just in general. Cause I can tell you, like in Citrus County Park, things that I enjoy about it, and the things that I absolutely don't enjoy about it. And the Augusta Park with the, is that, you're talking about the one that's downtown? Or you're talking about the ones that kind of on the outskirts of town?
I think it's close to the outskirts, yeah, the new Castle Park that they just
Has a little
did, like,
tall thingy in it, yeah.
and it's entirely fenced in,
Yeah.
it's all ADA, the whole thing.
Yeah. So there's lots of things like that. I think that if we can, instead of waiting for people to come to us and give us a proposal, if we can narrow it down a little bit more and we can all decide and say, these are the things that we really like to want, I'm gonna almost challenge you to maybe have that done by the next meeting.
So by the next meeting, do you want me to try to have maybe somebody from Augusta and Bel Air
Yeah, I mean, that's great.
have, and give them like 10 minutes to speak or whatever
Yeah.
each, or? and just ask them to kind of tell us their process, what they wish they knew beforehand, or.
We want pros and cons and guidance in that, and the ability to ask questions, I think.
And I think maybe a good process would be a subcommittee, maybe that you put together, and, you know, 3 people at a minimum, and those people contact these big vendors like Crouch Athletics or the Play by Design,
Yep.
and maybe get some information from them, or
How their
interview them,
process works.
and decide on who you want to use, what company you wanna use, because a lot of those companies will provide everything for you. They provide everything for the development of the playground, you know, they come in and they do community events, whatever you need to develop your playground and your concept, and then they also, you know, look for grants, because they wanna sell you equipment, and it doesn't matter if it's grant money or our money, it's still money to them, you know, so they have departments or people who search for grants. So maybe selecting a company and then deciding who you're gonna work with to develop the concept, and timeline and everything else around that would be a good first step.
Are there at least 3 people who'd like to be in that subcommittee?
Sorry. I have something to throw out.
Sure.
I met over the phone, a lady named Kendra. Her and her husband own recreation installations. They're based out of Kansas City, Kansas. And, I found them, cause they have done things down here in Wichita, but their website is like amazing. They have and it's not, I talked to her for like 35 minutes on the phone, and, they really like hold your hand through the whole process, and it would be direct contact with them, not having to go through a bigger or like nationwide company. The options that they have are insane for, I mean, from like surface stuff, and she talked to me about that. So the Pebble Rock that we have, she was also able to look at our park at the same time while she pulled it up on Google Maps, and she's like, well, perfect, I can see exactly what size we're looking at, and there's options with not throwing, it would be really expensive to remove all that rock. Like insanely expensive, and they could also work with, you can always add more rock, but, and I said that, I mentioned we had a problem with runoff or like keeping it contained, and so they have so many different layouts and plans, and where we can make our park really custom.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you wanna be on that committee?
What I'm saying is, yeah, I think that we should really not go with something like one of these generic,
Well, I think you're gonna find that, like the kind of Matt was saying, is most of those companies wanna come in and give you exactly what you
Oh,
want.
yeah, like,
Like
that
they're-
one I was talking about, like, all of the parks are done to the community, like, like Castle Park was based on a park that was previously in the exact same location in Augusta, so like, a
Yeah.
lot of them do very similar things.
yeah.
I would happily be on the subcommittee.
Recreation. So do we have 3 people that will be on that committee to start looking at those types of companies, reaching out to them?
And a ton of they have a whole section of like ADA accessible
Yeah. Oh,
things,
yeah.
and it like with enclosed things, so you don't have to worry about whoever flying out of there. But they just have so many options, and I think that it would be really cool if everyone could look at it at their site on
And what was it called?
recreation installations.
So Cassandra, Cassie, thank you, I'm sorry, is that Cassandra?
I know, it's fine.
So Cassie and Conley will both do it. Kristen, do you also wanna?
Sure.
Okay, and Kristen,
Recreation, what was it again?
installation?
Installations. Yeah, and, but their prices, and I'm a sucker for anything that has a warranty, so, that, I mean.
Right?
Yeah, they really should, and when she mentioned that, I looked up like who our park was originally installed by, PG, subcommittee, or it's one of those two.
Cheryl, did you get the 3 names of the subcommittee?
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
I did Cassie, Connie, and Chris.
You'll be our, design subcommittee?
Sounds good.
You're welcome.
So
Now there's gonna be your chair of your committee.
I literally,
Ooh.
stumbled, I like went down a rabbit hole on.
I know, that's what's gonna keep
parks,
happening.
But I can't be, unfortunately, the parks that I was looking at were like multi-million.
Yeah.
Trust me, I found the whole thing of a designated like dog training
So-
area.
Yeah.
So for you three specifically, I think what it sounds like our goal is for you all to meet, and come up with a list of people that we're going to reach out to provide presentations or submit information back to us, so that we can, then decide amongst ourselves what we like out of that, and then who we're gonna go with.
So we're allowed to meet as a subcommittee.
Because you're a
as
3, right?
four.
Because you're 3, and you're 3, right?
Yeah.
As well, just remember to please make sure that you're always in the 3 when you're communicating. I keep doing it, I'm sorry, I keep crossing my leg. My foot hurts. Okay. So we'll have you 3 ladies on that, and then we'll get the other piece on there. I think that, I like the idea of like finishing the timeline. I think that once we have the meeting and the parking, that'll give us a better idea, since we know some of this maintenance stuff we can just submit to the city. What I will do on my own is I will compile all this in an email and I will send it to, the right person at the city for the maintenance stuff. As much fun as maybe filling that thing out 15 times might not be as much fun, so I'll put that together myself and send that in from the information that you all gave me and the other citizens have given me as well. But then I'll find out also about the date, for the June movie and see when that's gonna be.
Right. So, and this, as far as the design subcommittee, that is for, I wanna make sure I understand, that is for the equipment.
Yes.
New equipment.
New equipment. So the whole purpose of them is to find companies who can submit proposals for new equipment. And service, yeah.
Play equipment.
And would that be just for the main park, or also?
I think it's
for-
for everything, everything.
Please,
while the dream-
because of, with play equipment, because I've had also a lot of people that have talked to me about, well, I'm interested myself, but anyway, a lot of people have come to me about, pickleball courts, which would kind of be some of the same thing, right? You're gonna have floor, you're gonna have all that kind of stuff
Yeah,
as well.
but I don't know that that would require going through a design company. I mean, they have a wall
Right.
that's just pour concrete and nets.
And I think our first priority
Right.
is
Yeah.
taking care of what
But
we
that's what I'm
have.
saying, I wanna make sure we understand.
Yeah, I think we're
what
thinking
all
mainly
this is
park
for.
equipment, yeah.
This is
This
for-
committee specific for park equipment, I
Right.
think the additional or add-ons, so things that don't exist currently would be a separate thing that we'll look at.
Right.
Does everybody understand
I
that?
like the pickleball court idea.
I've never played
I
pickleball.
do not understand.
Okay, so just as of time, since it's already 7:50 and I don't wanna keep you here too late, we don't need to. So then we'll move on to staff reports. Did you have additional stuff?
I did, I was just.
Okay.
going
Passing
through
on.
these, so, yeah.
The thing, the project issue. Okay. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Alexander motions to adjourn, do you have a second?
Second.
Cheryl, seconds. All right. Everybody approved? Aye. Anybody wanna stay longer? Okay, thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.